Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something real today. Not sugar-coated, not wrapped in a fairy tale, just real. A woman gets married, full of love, full of hope, believing she's found her partner for life. Fast forward 20, 30 years, and suddenly she feels different. The man she once adored now irritates her. She feels unseen, unheard, and if she's honest, a little resentful. Why? Love is a beautiful, ever-changing force. It begins with passion, excitement, and the thrill of discovery. In the early days of a relationship, love feels effortless for a glance. Every touch, every conversation carries a sense of wonder. But as the years pass, the intensity of new love naturally fades, replaced by something deeper, something quieter. That transition is where many couples struggle, because while love evolves, it is respect that determines whether a marriage will thrive or wither. Respect is the foundation that holds a relationship steady when love goes through its inevitable changes. It is what keeps two people connected beyond the initial rush of attraction. Love can make your heart race, but respect is what makes your heart stay. It is what ensures that, even when disagreements arise, there is no cruelty, no belittling, no disregard for the other person's feelings. Without respect, love alone is not enough to sustain a marriage. Think about it. A couple can say they love each other, but if they don't respect one another, their relationship becomes riddled with resentment. When a woman feels unheard, dismissed, or unappreciated, her love doesn't just fade, it transforms. It turns into frustration, disappointment, and eventually detachment. She may stay, she may continue to play the role of a wife, but emotionally she begins to withdraw. And the same is true for men. If a man feels constantly criticized, belittled, or ignored, love alone won't keep him engaged in the relationship. Respect in a marriage means valuing each other's opinions, appreciating each other's contributions, and recognizing that both partners are evolving over time. It means acknowledging that the woman you married at 25 is not the same woman at 45, and the man she chose then is not the same man now. People grow, change, and discover new aspects of themselves. When respect is present, those changes become opportunities to learn about each other again and again, rather than reasons to drift apart. One of the most common mistakes in long-term relationships is assuming that love will carry a couple through anything. But love without respect is fragile. It can be crushed under the weight of neglect, indifference, or carelessness. A man might believe that because his wife is still there, things are fine, but is he listening to her? Is he acknowledging her needs? Is he treating her with the same admiration and attention he once did? On the other hand, a woman might still love her husband, but if she no longer respects him, if she sees him as passive, uninvolved, or emotionally absent, that love turns into obligation rather than joy. She stays, but she doesn't feel connected. She may even begin to resent the effort she once freely gave. Respect is in the small, everyday moments. It's in how we speak to each other, even when we're frustrated. It's in remembering to say thank you for the things we might take for granted. It's in showing up, not just physically, but emotionally. It's in recognizing that a partnership is not about one person always giving and the other always receiving, but about both people contributing to the strength of their relationship. When love changes, as it inevitably does, respect is what keeps two people from becoming strangers in the same house. It is what ensures that, even after decades together, there is still kindness, still appreciation, still a deep sense of value for one another. Because love is beautiful, but respect is what makes it last. In every relationship, there are obvious threats: infidelity, constant arguments, financial stress, or even differences in values. But there is one danger that often goes unnoticed until it has already done irreversible damage: emotional neglect. It doesn't arrive with loud fights or dramatic exits. It doesn't announce itself with betrayal or explosive conflicts. Instead, it seeps in slowly, unnoticed, like a quiet thief stealing the very foundation of love. Emotional neglect is not about what is said, but about what is left unsaid. It's not about grand betrayals, but about the small, everyday absences, the moments when one partner reaches out and the other doesn't reach back. It is the silence that replaces deep conversations, the emotional distance that grows between two people who once shared everything. It's when a wife stops sharing her dreams because she knows her husband isn't really listening. It's when a husband stops opening up about his struggles because he has learned that his words won't be met with understanding. It is not about hatred or even anger. It is about indifference. In the early days of a relationship, emotional connection is effortless. Two people can talk for hours, eager to learn every detail about one another. They check in, they notice the little things, they offer support without being asked. But over time, life happens: careers, children, responsibilities, and the simple exhaustion of daily living. Somewhere along the way, couples stop truly seeing each other. The conversations become transactional. Did you pay the bills? What's for dinner? Who's picking up the kids? The laughter, the curiosity, the affection all start to fade, replaced by routine. One of the greatest mistakes people make in long-term relationships is assuming that just because they are physically present, they are fulfilling their role as a partner. But being in the same room is not the same as being emotionally available. A woman can sit next to her husband every night and still feel completely alone. A man can share a home with his wife and yet feel like a stranger in his own marriage. Love is not just about proximity, it is about presence. It is about showing up, not just in body, but in heart, in mind, and in spirit. Over time, emotional neglect creates an invisible wall between partners. At first, it might just feel like a rough patch, a busy season of life. But if left unaddressed, it becomes the new normal. Conversations become shallow. The warmth disappears. One partner may try to reach out asking for more time together, expressing loneliness, hinting at their unmet emotional needs. But if those attempts are ignored, dismissed, or met with indifference, they eventually stop trying. And that is when the real damage is done. The hardest part about emotional neglect is that it doesn't always look like a problem from the outside. There are no screaming matches, no dramatic breakups. In fact, many couples suffering from emotional neglect appear perfectly fine to the world. They still function as a unit, they still attend family gatherings, they still smile in photographs, but behind closed doors, there is an emptiness that words cannot describe. It is the slow fading of intimacy, the loss of connection, the quiet realization that the person you once felt closest to is now just someone you live with. People often assume that relationships end because of one big moment of betrayal, a huge fight, an unforgivable mistake. But more often, relationships die from a lack of care, from years of neglect that build up until there is nothing left to hold on to. A woman doesn't wake up one day and suddenly resent her husband. It happens over years of feeling unheard, unappreciated, and emotionally abandoned. A man doesn't suddenly fall out of love. He slowly stops feeling like he matters in the eyes of his partner. How do we stop this? The answer is not grand gestures or expensive vacations. It's the simple, daily acts of emotional connection. It's putting down the phone and truly listening when your partner speaks. It's noticing when they're struggling, even when they don't say it out loud. It's remembering to ask about their day, to hold their hand, to remind them that they are seen and valued. It's about making an effort every single day to keep the connection alive. Because emotional neglect is not loud. It does not demand attention. But if left unchecked, it will slowly, silently, and inevitably destroy even the strongest of relationships. In the early stages of a relationship, many women step into roles that feel natural, expected, or even necessary. They become caretakers, supporters, nurturers, and in many cases, the emotional backbone of their families. They do it out of love, out of duty, and sometimes because they believe it's what a good partner does. But as time passes, as life experiences shape them, as they grow and evolve, many women find themselves looking around and realizing that the roles they once embraced no longer fit who they are. This change doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual, a slow awakening that begins with small moments of frustration or a quiet yearning for something more. Maybe it's the exhaustion of always putting others first. Maybe it's the realization that she has dreams and desires that have been placed on the back burner for years. Maybe it's the way she has learned to shrink herself to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, or to fulfill an expectation that she never questioned before. But then, one day, she does question it. And once that door opens, there is no closing it. Women are often conditioned to be givers. From a young age, they are taught to be accommodating, to nurture, to prioritize relationships over their own needs. In marriage, this often translates to taking on the majority of the emotional labor, remembering birthdays, maintaining social connections, managing the household, and being the one who holds everything together. At first, it may feel fulfilling. She takes pride in being the one who keeps things running smoothly. She finds joy in caring for her family. But over time, the weight of this unbalanced responsibility begins to take a toll. There comes a point in a woman's life, sometimes in her 30s, sometimes in her 40s or 50s, when she begins to reflect on everything she has given and everything she has sacrificed. She begins to ask herself, is this all there is? She wonders what happened to the woman she used to be before she became a wife, a mother, a caretaker. She starts to crave something beyond the routine of daily obligations, intellectual stimulation, personal growth, freedom, or simply the ability to say no without guilt. The problem is, when a woman begins to outgrow the role she once accepted, it often disrupts the balance of the relationship. The husband who has come to rely on her fulfilling that role may not understand what is happening. He may see her change as a rejection of him rather than an evolution of herself. He may resist, dismiss, or even criticize her for wanting something different. But what many men fail to realize is that this shift is not about them, it is about her. It is about a woman reclaiming herself. It is about her recognizing that she is more than what she does for others. That she is not just a mother, not just a wife, not just a caretaker, but an individual with dreams, ambitions, and needs of her own. And when a woman begins to recognize this, she will no longer tolerate being in a relationship that does not allow her the space to grow. In the early years of a relationship, priorities are often centered around building a life together, romance, passion, shared dreams, and the excitement of creating something new. Couples spend time planning their future, making memories, and enjoying the thrill of simply being together. There's an energy that fuels the relationship, a desire to explore and experience life side by side. But as time passes, as life unfolds in ways both expected and unexpected, those priorities inevitably shift. What once seemed urgent or exciting may no longer hold the same importance. What once brought joy may now feel routine. Aging brings a new perspective, shaped by experiences, challenges, and personal growth. The things that once defined happiness, material success, social validation, external achievements often take a backseat to deeper, more meaningful aspects of life. Health becomes a bigger focus, not just physical, but emotional well-being. Stability starts to matter more than spontaneity. The need for genuine connection, understanding, and peace outweighs the excitement of constant adventure. The way people define love changes too, becomes less about grand gestures and more about quiet, consistent presence. For relationships to survive this shift, they must evolve alongside these changing priorities. What worked in the early years of marriage may no longer be enough to sustain it decades later. The ways partners express love, show support, and communicate need to adapt. A relationship cannot remain frozen in time while the people in it continue to grow. If one person changes while the other remains the same, a distance begins to form, not necessarily physical, but emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. Women in particular often experience a profound shift in priorities as they age. Many spend their younger years nurturing other children, spouses, family only, to reach a point where they begin to ask, "What about me?" They start prioritizing their own growth, their own fulfillment, their own happiness. They may develop new interests, set new goals, or seek a deeper sense of self beyond their role as a wife or mother. If their partner fails to recognize and respect this transformation, if he continues to relate to her as the person she was rather than the person she is becoming, tension begins to grow. Men, too, experience shifts, though often in different ways. The drive to succeed, to provide, to be seen as strong and capable may give way to a desire for peace, simplicity, or deeper emotional connection. He may begin to reassess what truly matters, realizing that time is more valuable than money, that presence is more important than productivity. Yet, if his partner still expects him to play the role he did decades earlier without acknowledging his own growth, frustration can set in. Relationships that resist change risk becoming stagnant, stuck in old patterns that no longer serve either partner. If one person is evolving and the other is unwilling to adapt, resentment can build. Conversations may become repetitive, filled with the same arguments that never truly get resolved. The relationship may still exist, but it stops feeling fulfilling, turning into something that is maintained out of habit rather than genuine connection. Adapting to changing priorities requires awareness, effort, and a willingness to see one another with fresh eyes. It means recognizing that the person you fell in love with is not the same person they are today, and that's not a bad thing. It means making space for new dreams, new desires, and new ways of expressing love. It means having the courage to let go of outdated expectations and embracing the possibility of rediscovering each other again and again with every stage of life. Relationships are not meant to remain unchanged. They are meant to grow, to shift, and to evolve just as the people within them do. Love alone is not enough to sustain a lifelong partnership. It must be nurtured with presence, respect, and the willingness to adapt. Emotional neglect, outdated roles, unspoken resentment, and the quiet erosion of connection can make a woman feel unseen and a man feel unappreciated, leading to a growing distance that neither fully understands until it's too late. The truth is, women don't simply wake up one day and stop loving their husbands. They grow, they change. They outgrow the roles they once accepted. They crave deeper emotional connection, and they become more aware of what they need and deserve. When a man stops showing up when he assumes that presence alone is enough, without emotional engagement, she notices. When life changes priorities and the relationship doesn't adjust, the disconnect widens. And when years of feeling unheard, unappreciated, or emotionally abandoned accumulate, love doesn't always survive the weight of what has been left unspoken. The truth is, women don't simply wake up one day and stop loving their husbands. They grow, they change. They outgrow the roles they once accepted, they crave deeper emotional connection, and they become more aware of what they need and deserve. When a man stops showing up when he assumes that presence alone is enough without emotional engagement, she notices. When life changes priorities and the relationship doesn't adjust, the disconnect widens. And when years of feeling unheard, unappreciated, or emotionally abandoned accumulate, love doesn't always survive the weight of what has been left unspoken. The marriages that endure are not the ones that remain the same, but the ones that embrace change together. They are the ones where both partners recognize that love is not a feeling to be assumed, but a commitment to be renewed day after day. In the smallest and most meaningful ways, when both people are willing to grow together, to listen, to adapt, and to continuously rediscover each other, love doesn't fade with time. It deepens, it strengthens. It becomes something even more powerful than it was in the beginning.